I really, really, really love Pikmin 4. It was such a great addition to the Pikmin games, and I had a wonderful time playing it, and I really, really love Ochi. So I wanted to add Ochi to my own personal Minecraft mod, and that's what gave me the idea to make this tutorial video, because, to be honest, Mcreator gets a lot of flack, but I feel like it's a very good tool for people who aren't really going to pursue mod making fully, and for people who just want to make mods simply for their own games and not necessarily distribute them. But I just wanted to say in advance that any Mcreator hate comments will be deleted because I just don't care. Mcreator is a wonderful tool, and for those of you who use Mcreator, I really hope that this tutorial is helpful. Like I said, there's not a lot of information out there on certain things in this video, and I had to piece together a lot of this information from multiple sources and multiple like forum posts, videos. There just wasn't a lot of information on making a full entity. So this video is going to go over how I made my lovely Ochi model, which I'm so excited about because Ochi is adorable, but how I made my wonderful Ochi model and how it is rideable, it can jump, it can attack, it can follow as long as you're holding an item in your offhand, it can be tamed, and that is the point of this. So I hope that this is useful, and thank you in advance. Hi guys, and welcome to Spazzy's classroom. If I sound a little different, it's because I've been going through quite the mental struggle lately, but I really wanted to make this tutorial because there is no information on this anywhere, okay? In order to make my entity jump, be rideable, have a custom spawn egg, I had to look all over the place and compile all the information, the little bits and pieces that I found into one big cohesive thing, because I literally could not find anything that was just a big cohesive thing to teach you how to make a custom entity that is rideable, tameable, has a custom spawn egg, and can jump. Why? I have no fucking idea. Why is everyone holding out on us? Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying that the entity that I'm going to be working on today is a basic entity, meaning that it's not going to have any extreme animations, it's not going to have different textures or states for jumping, attacking, etc. It's going to be a basic mob that does basic things. That is it. Okay? Okay. Okay, so the first program that I'm going to be using is Blockbench. You can easily find this and download it online. It's a free program, so do not worry. Okay, so in here you'll see lots of options, specifically for Minecraft. Java block item, bedrock entity, bedrock block, modded entity, Optifine entity, and Minecraft skin. You can actually like open all of these and look at what they mean, but for us we want to do a modded entity because that is what we're going to be able to actually make a living, breathing creature in Minecraft. So we're gonna go ahead and create new model. Now here in the file name and model identifier, you're going to want to type the same thing. So for my model, I would type Ochi, because I'm making Ochi from Pikmin 4. So you would type the same thing twice, and make sure to set the export version to whichever one you need, and make sure it says MCP afterwards. That's really important. So for me, I'm using an older version of Blockbench so I can export it as a 1.16 for Forge, because my model, or my mod, is for 1.16. It might automatically like confirm it after you click the version. If it does, just click this 16 by 16 number up here in this corner right here, and it will reopen the project sizing. If you want a different texture size, you can do it here. Make sure you do it only in Minecraft texture readable sizes. So 16 by 16 is the basic Minecraft size. If you want to go up from there, you would do 16 times 2, which is 32, and so on and so forth to get the right block size. Make sure you do not go out of this block size, or else your mob will not show up. So for this, I'm going to put 32 and 32 into these, and then press confirm. I already have a model that I'm working on, so I'm going to go ahead and open that now. Now that we're in the actual bench, I have a model that I'm working on. This is Ochi from Pikmin 4. I adore him. And I'm going to be sort of giving you some tips and pointers on how to work with Minecraft entities. I can't tell you how exactly to make them because you can make whatever you want, but I can give you some tips on how to make them work properly in Minecraft. So as you can see for my Ochi model here, I have it split into various groups, and this is really important because this will tell Minecraft how to animate your model when we import it into Mcreator. So first things first, let me close off all this stuff so you can see the legs. So Ochi's legs are made of 2 blocks, one for the foot and one for the leg. I want to point out something very important from the get-go. When you add new cubes, which is how you will work with Blockbench, you can watch other creators' tutorials on this. When you add new cubes, make sure to never size them in decibels. That means like this. If undersize any of these 3 right here are a decibel, it will not work. Do not use decibels for modded entities. Don't do it because it will not work. Just keep everything as a whole number, so just size it up by whole numbers like this. Whole number, whole number, whole number, whole number. You cannot use decibels in the size. You can use decibels in position, in rotation, in the inflate button over here, but do not use decibels in the size of the block. It will not work. That is something very important that I had to learn the hard way, and I just wanted to tell you all. So back to Ochi's legs. So Ochi's legs are in 2 different folders, which you can add a group using this button right here. When you add a group, you can put cubes inside of that group by just dragging them like that. So these 2 groups are Ochi's right and left leg. Now, the important part about this is that after you make your leg, so you can see that here's Ochi's right leg with the 2 cubes inside of it. Everything is whole numbers in terms of the size, and then you want to click on the group itself. Now you can see this little bar up here. Go to the top part of the window, and where this sort of aim reticle is, just click on that and it will show you this. This is your pivot point. What a pivot point is basically where the movement of that part of the body starts. So for our leg, we want the pivot point to be centered in Ochi's leg. So I'm actually going to move this down so that it's centered on the top of Ochi's leg. So if you accidentally click off of it, just remember that we're working in the group, not in individual cubes. We're working in the whole group. So we want to just get it nice and centralized on Ochi's leg. So about there is pretty good. Now the reason you want it centralized is because think of it like this. When Ochi, or whatever your creature is walking, this center point is where the leg will swing from. And you don't want your leg to be swinging from up here or from the floor, because then the animation will just not look right. You want the pivot point to be in the central of wherever the animation is supposed to start from. So in our case, this is going to be a leg that walks, so we want it to swing from the center point, which is right here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the left leg, just centralize the point. You can hold shift and move it easily. And that looks pretty good. So just make sure that when you make your points that you centralize them. I also have the body here, and the body has its pivot point in the center. I don't plan on giving the body any animations, so I don't have to move the pivot point for that. for the head, you can see that the pivot point is in the center, and when I put the head on, you can see that it is centralized. I'm not giving Ochi any head animations, but if you are giving them head animations and they're a creature who has the head on the front of their body, you're going to want the pivot point to be central behind their head, and if they have like a neck that goes down, you're going to want the pivot point to be on the bottom of the head where the neck is. Last thing that Ochi has is a tail, and the pivot point for the tail is right in the center of the tail, so that way it can swing. After you're done making your model, be sure to go back through all of your cubes and check them to be sure that all the sizes don't have any decibels in them, and then you're going to generate a texture. So you're going to click right here where my pointer is, press Ctrl A, and it'll select everything. Go over here to where it says create texture and press this button. Now the texture name, it's important that it is named exactly like your model. My model's name is Ochi Big, so my texture needs to be called Ochi Big. You can pick your pixel density here. I'm just going to leave it at 64 because I already have a texture made. I'm just trying to show you how this works. And all of the stuff that's already checked is perfectly fine, so just press confirm. Now for me, it made just another texture of the one I already had. But for you, what's going to happen is it's going to look something like... Let me do this. It's going to look something like this. It's going to have colors on every side, and you're going to go into the paint mode and paint it. You can use any colors you want using the paintbrush. You can also use the gradient tool, which gives you gradients. You can use the draw shape tool, which means you can draw shapes. You can use the paint bucket to paint all the sides at once. You have all this freedom to paint your model. I can't tell you how to paint your model. I can just tell you some tips, which is that you should consider hiding cubes as you paint, like this. Just hiding different cubes so that you can see underneath. For example, this is the collar that I'm hiding right now. Just so that you can get all the nooks and crannies, I recommend making sure all your faces are painted. But again, I already have my texture, so I'm not going to make a new one. But this is how you would do that. And so once you're done with your texture, you'll get to a point that's something like this. Now, I have a few things that I need to fix on my texture, so this is a good opportunity for me to show you that. So once you're done with your texture and you're like, oh, I really like how this looks, I'm really happy with it, you should really check it over, because as you can see on my texture UV, there's a lot of the colors from the first generation that are still here, like the grays, some of the green, yellow boxes, the light red, the white, and you kind of don't want any of that to be there because it could show when your creature is animating. So the best way to take care of that is to just hide everything except for one part at a time and just sort of go through, enter paint mode, and take whatever the base color is of that area and just put a paint bucket onto it, and you can see that that got rid of that. And then I'll just check the foot as well, which that one looks fine, and then we'll close that, open the right leg, and just repeat the same process. You just want to go through everything, even if you don't think it will be seen by anyone who uses your mod. You should really still check it, because you never know what your animations will actually show to the person using your mod. And in this case, I have this whole area up here that is still the basic white color, so I'm going to put that off there. And that one looks good. And you can use your own discretion on how much time you want to spend on this. But again, it's just useful so that way you actually have, you don't end up having all these little crevices that have all these strange colors poking out of them. So I just find it useful in that way, because you can see even here that I missed some of this collar. And it will be noticeable in Minecraft, because Minecraft will show the little bits and bobs that poke through, so it's just better to go through and make sure everything gets a coat of paint, regardless of where it is on the model. I think it's just best practice to make sure that everything is painted. That way nothing will accidentally show through and be kind of strange looking in the final product. And it doesn't really take long, because like I said, any of these sides that you don't think are really going to show but still want to cover, you just use the paint bucket with the basic color from that region of the character. So it won't really be too long of a process, but it will still help in the end. This looks good. Okay, I'll restore the whole collar now. And I'm almost done with mine because my entity isn't too in-depth. So that's good there. I'm just going to go ahead and close the body out and then open up the head one and do the same process through this one as well. And again, I highly recommend you take your time with this and make sure to do it properly so that you actually see what kind of errors could be present and fix them that way. Just in case it ever pokes through, you're not ever going to see those errors, and they also won't really get rendered in Minecraft in a way that is a bit distracting. And again, when it comes to building a full model in Blockbench, there are plenty of tutorials that people have made for modded entities in general. My tutorial is going a bit more in depth with certain procedures in Mcreator that I don't think get talked about enough, or I wasn't able to find much information on myself, so that's why I wanted to make this tutorial, because making a rideable jumping entity was something I couldn't locate, and so I actually wanted to be able to make this myself. That way we all have some information about this. So I'm just going to restore this. You can see that that is a lot better now. A lot more stable looking. And then I'm going to go ahead and go through the muzzle now. Same thing. Just grabbing the basic color and paint bucket. And I'll just fast forward the rest of this. Okay, now I'm all finished, so I'm just gonna restore everything to visible. So now the whole entity is visible again. And after you've created your whole model and textured it, the only last thing I would say is to just kind of take a look through all of your pieces in edit mode. Just sort of check all the little alignments and make sure everything is good. There is such a thing as Z-fighting, which I will just quickly show you. In paint mode, you can sort of see how these two overlap, and there's no space. If they were different colors, which I'll quickly show you, if these were different colors, they would Z-fight. I don't know why they're not Z-fighting, actually. It's a little bit strange. But they would Z-fight if they were on the same exact plane. I guess I just made this very good, to the point where they're not Z-fighting. But, I'll just spawn in 2 cubes and show you what Z-fighting is so that you know. So here's 2 cubes, and what the fuck? Oh, here's 2 cubes, and if they are on the same plane, you can see how they're Z-fighting. Z-fighting just means that 2 textures are fighting for which one gets to be on top. And the way that you can combat this is just going into the inflate tool and just going 0.001. That means it's just offset enough that you won't really notice that it's offset, but you also won't notice any Z-fighting either, so that's what you can do for that. Once everything's to your liking and you don't notice any mistakes that are really bugging you or anything, you can export your model to get it ready to go into Mcreator. I'm just quickly checking for anything that I can fix up and make look a little nicer before I export it. But once you're done and you're like, oh, this looks great and I don't see any Z fighting and all the planes look really nice and I've done everything I need to, you can export it. So the first thing you want to do is go back into this 128 by 128. Your numbers will be different depending on your texture size. And just make sure that the model name, the file name, and model identifier are the same. So Ochibig for me. Everything's good, so I'm going to press confirm. Make sure the texture is also called the same thing as your model name, so Ochibig is mine. I am going to go to File up here and Save Project. This will save it as a BB model. It'll ask you what you want to save it as. You can name it whatever you want. And then go down to File, Export as Java Entity. Press this. And I'm going to overwrite my old Ochibig, so I'm going to press Save. It's going to ask if I want to replace it. I'm going to press Yes. And then you're going to right click on your texture, press save as, and I'm going to save that as Ochibig, and I'm going to replace my old one. So that is everything from Blockbench. Again, there's plenty of other great tutorials on YouTube about how to actually make models in Blockbench. Just keep in mind the thing I said about not using decibels, and you'll be perfectly fine. That's the #1 thing to keep in mind, is not to use decibels on the size parameters. Here we are back in Mcreator after we made our model, our texture, and we're happy with it, and we made sure all of our pivot points were accurate. Now what we're going to do is go over to resources, and you can see I already have the old Ochibig in here, so I'm just going to delete that for the sake of the tutorial. Same with the Ochi model that I imported. Again, just for the sake of the tutorial, you don't have to do any of that, but we're going to go to texture files in resources and import textures. You're going to import mob, GUI, logo, etc. textures, and you're going to find your texture. Mine is somewhere in here. Ochibig, press open. So that's my new Ochibig texture, and it's much cleaner than my old one. After you import your texture, you're going to go to 3D models and texture mappings, import Java 3D model. It'll give you a warning. Just press OK and find your model. Mine's ochibig.java. Press open. Now, this is the important part. It's going to open the model animation definition wizard. If you followed my instructions in Blockbench about making folders or groups, as they're called, for each and every part, you'll have no problem. And if you made sure your pivot points were accurate, you'll have no problem. So for me, I'm only going to do L leg animation, R leg animation, and the tail animation, which is down here. So I'm going to put L leg as the left leg swing animation, R leg as the R leg swing animation, if I can find that. And then down here at the tail animation, I'm going to do right arm swing, because it'll just swing sort of like arms do on a Minecraft character. And then we're just going to press set new animations, and you can put any animations you want. You can play around with them. If you don't like the animations, you can reset them very easily. So after you import your texture in 3D modeling, that is the first part done. And now we'll move into mod elements, which is the more, not difficult, I would say, but just the more intensive part of the process. So the first thing that I want to do before I even start is I'm actually going to make 2 item textures. One of these item textures is going to be for my quote-unquote spawn egg for my creature, since this tutorial is going to show you how to make a custom spawn egg instead of just the default one that comes with the entities in Mcreator. And I'm going to make a custom taming food as well. So you're going to go to texture files, create new texture, and just create texture. You can fill with whatever you want. I'm going to fill mine with transparency, and you could use a template if you want. So you could go in here and find something that you could use to base your thing off of if you want to. And for me, I am just going to make my own textures from scratch. Okay, so I've made my two textures, the Scrummy Bone and Ochi's Spawn Egg. The Scrummy Bone's an actual thing from Pikmin 4. It's a treat for Ochi that heals him, so that's what I'm going to use for taming Ochi. And then the Ochi Spawn Egg I just kind of made up based on Pikmin from Pikmin 4 and how they look and stuff, so I'm gonna use that as the egg to actually spawn Ochi that I'm also going to be able to put in my loot tables. There's one last thing that I want to import before we begin, and that is the sound file. I have my bread bug squeak and my Baldman sounds. These are the sounds that I use for my entities, my bread bug entity and my Baldman entity. So I want to import one for Ochi as well. I have a bark sound file for Ochi, so I'm going to quickly open Audacity and I'll show you how to convert it so that it works with Mcreator and Minecraft. Okay, so really quickly, I'm gonna have Audacity open. I'm just gonna skip all this bullshit. I have my Ochi barking sound effect here, and I'll play it really quick for you so you can hear it. Okay, so I'm going to make some adjustments to it, like I'm going to shorten it, and I'm also going to generate some silence, generate, and then I'm going to piece these two clips because I want to fade out Ochi's bark a little bit, so add fading, adjustable fade. And you don't have to do as much of this if you don't want to. I just like to have some sort of fade. And then overall, I just want this to be a little gentler on the ears in Minecraft. So I'm going to do some low pass, which takes away that sort of squeakiness to it, which is a bit harsh on the ears. That sounds fine, so I'm gonna go ahead and export that. You want to export whatever audio you're using as an OGG file. I'm just gonna call it Ochi underscore bark. And then we'll go back into here and import OGG sounds. I'm gonna call this Ochi underscore bark. The sound category is going to be ambient. You don't need a subtitle for this because it's not music. And then I will Ochi underscore bark, add that sound, and here it is inside of our sound files. Now we have everything. We have our textures, we have our model, we have our sounds. We're ready to work on the actual entity. So make sure we're recording correctly. Yes, we are. First thing we're gonna do is make our living entity. So I'm gonna name it Ochi and create living entity. Name of entity is Ochi. Entity models where we select our custom model. Mine's Ochi Big. Yours will be whatever you made. Don't worry about these two settings here. Texture of entity, Ochi Big. Make sure your model title matches the name of your model. glow texture. I'm not going to go over that. There's other tutorials out there that show you how to use glow textures on entities. And entity model bounding box is important, but I'll be going over it later because I have a hard time reading entity bounding boxes, so I'll show you how in Minecraft you can test the bounding box out visibly so you can see what you're doing. Spawn egg options, we're going to make our own custom spawn egg, so I'm going to turn this off. If you wanted to keep the spawn egg just default and not make a custom one, you would keep it checked, but we're making a custom spawn egg so we can use it in crafting recipes and in loot tables. You cannot use this spawn egg in your creature, you cannot use in loot tables or in crafting recipes, so just keep that in mind. If you want to be able to craft your spawn egg or use it in a loot table, then you need to not have it be this one, because this will not work. Boss health is not applicable, entity label we don't need, and living sound is where we put our sound files, so I'm gonna grab the Ochi bark and use that. The rest of it's fine. I don't mind that he uses normal stepping sounds, and the normal hurt and generic death sounds are fine as well. I don't really mind those. You can always make them more custom if you would like to, but I don't really mind having those be default. Okay, so in behavior, this is some more important stuff. If you want your creature to be able to attack, or should I say your entity, if you want your entity to be able to do any attacking at all, then it needs to be a mob. If it's not going to attack ever, then it can be a creature, but it needs to be a mob if it's going to be able to defend you from other creatures or help you attack. So remember that it needs to be a mob. It's important, it even says so in here. Keep in mind that if you select creature type here, attack AI types will make the entity crash the game. So make sure that it is listed as a mob. Here you can set your drop for your entity. I am not going to have my entity drop anything upon death. Here's for special attributes. You can make it an arthropod, illager, water undead. This is mostly just for like weapon enchantments. And here's the health amount. So 2 health equals 1 heart here, so you can sort of suss this out. 10 would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That would be 5 hearts. I want, I think 20 hearts on mine, so let's see. That would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 hearts. This over here is experience for killing the mob. I'm only going to put 1 experience because I don't really want to encourage killing Ochi. Movement speed and tracking range. This can be set however you want. You can read the little highlight here. You can also learn more in the living entity on Mcreator. Normal mobs are around 0.25. Faster mobs are around 0.3. We're going to leave it as default so that Ochi moves pretty fast. 64, this is for the how far the entity is tracked by players. 64 blocks is plenty. Attract strength, armor protection, base value. This really doesn't matter too much, but this is the amount of damage that mobs deal to entities when attacking. You can pull up the Minecraft mob damage wiki. And I'll show you this really quickly here so you can have something to reference. You can pull up this mob damage wiki and reference the different mobs and how much damage they do. This number shows you how much hearts it does, so 2 damage is 1 heart because 2 equals 1 heart. And you can see just how much damage some of the mobs do. I based my my initial Ochi damage, I based it off of a piglin, so 5 hearts, so 2.5 damage, and that's what I'm going to do, so 5 hearts, or 5 damage for 2.5 hearts. So that's what I'm going to do here. Then on the other side, you have the amount of inbuilt armor that it has, and I'm going to do 2 armor points because that's how much a zombie has, and I want it to be like that. Okay, so back to this now. After knockback resistance, you can see that most mobs don't use it except for the Ravager, who has 1.5 knockback. I'm gonna do 0.3 knockback for Ochi, and knockback resistance, I'm gonna do 0.2. The equipment doesn't matter because ours is not a biped or a zombie model. And the entity Rideable, we want this for ours. If you don't want yours to be Rideable, don't check this, but for Ochi, we want this, so I'm going to do Rideable, forward movement, and strafe control, so you have full control. If it's a water entity, you would check this. If it's a flying entity, then you would check this. Entity immune to, this is what doesn't hurt your entity. I'm going to be basing this off of Ochi with upgrades in Pikmin 4, which is lightning for the electricity, fire for the fire, drowning for the water, fall damage because Ochi doesn't take fall damage. The rest of it is fine. Particles, I don't really need those, so I'm not going to be going over those in this tutorial. Inventory, again, unless you're going to be doing something complicated where you have inventory in your entity, then I would just skip this because this tutorial is just for basic entities. This is going to be important, this tab with right clicking and such. This is going to be important later. We just have to set up the procedure for it. But this is, for now, just don't worry about this tab at all. So here we have AI and goals. This is an important tab for what you want your entity to do. You have villager related tasks, like you can make it open and close doors. Target tasks, which means you can have it follow you if you have something in your hand. Watch closely, you can have it follow the mobs of its same type around. Other tasks, you can have it break blocks, eat grass, restrict sun. Movement task, you can have it swim randomly, wander around and avoid water. Combat tasks, you can have it attack, do flight attacks, fight attacker, mobs back, call for help, do melee contact, panic when attacked. You can also have it do basic tasks like leap at entity with a speed factor of 0.5, look around and float in water. Breed, find partner, hurt entities that owner attacked, follow owner, follow parent, hurt entities that attacked owner. You can also use AI templates for this instead of making your own, so you would just delete all of that in here now, and you could just do basic passive mob, basic tameable, flying mob aggressive, flying mob passive, mob aggressive to player, mob that attacks only when hurt, passive water mob, and water mob aggressive towards player. For this we would use basic tameable mob, and you would just want to add in that the entity can attack if you want it to attack. So combat tasks, you would just do melee contact, attack with speed factor, chase after lose sight if you want to. So this would go in here and higher depending on how much you want this to be important. I actually have an AI set up already that I'm going to import. So you just go over here and click import AI setup. And I have an entity data folder with my tameable rideable AI, so this is the AI. My AI starts with wanders around, enable walking speed with a factor of 1, panic when attacked with a factor of 1.2, look around, float in water, follow owner with speed factor of 1, minimal distance of 10, maximum distance 2 if tamed, hurt entities that attack the owner, hurt entities that owner attacked, and do melee attack with speed factor 1.2, chase after lost sight is not checked. So that's mine, but you can have yours to be whatever you want. Now, we will be wanting to be able to tame this entity, so we're going to check can tame, but we want to check make this entity animal type and can tame, but we do not have the item to tame it yet, which is going to be the scrummy bone, but we need to make that item first. So we're just going to leave this here, save and keep open, and leave it here. Go back to workspace up in this corner, press plus again. You're going to want to find item, which is right here, and name that whatever you need it to be. Mine's going to be scrummy bone. I'm going to put in my texture that I made, which is this one, and this is, keep this as normal. Special information, Ochi loves this. And that's just flavor text that'll show in the menu, sort of like how enchantments have little flavor text, or how music has little flavor text. It's not important, you don't have to add this, but it just sort of like for role-playing and stuff, it's a little helpful. Properties, I'm going to add it to my custom creative tab. Rarity is common, Scrummy Bone is the name, enchantability is none, max stack size is 64, item destroy speed is 1. This is sort of like normal item, like if you hit a block with it, how fast it destroys it. Damage mob, I don't, versus mob animal, you can see, you can activate melee damage for your item with this parameter. No. We don't need to do that. Item use count and durability leaves 0 to disabled damage. Again, this is the same because this is not a tool. Is this item immune to fire? It's a bone, so I would say yes it is. Can it destroy a block? No. Does this item stay in the crafting grid? No. Damage instead on crafting? No. Recipe, remainder, this doesn't matter. Item animation, eat. Item use duration, this doesn't matter because it's not a food, but you could change this to anything if you want. Spear, drink, crossbow, block, eat. I'm just going to keep it at eat. Food properties, it's not food, so that doesn't matter. Advanced properties, we don't need this. And triggers, we will be coming back to this later, but for now, just save the mod element. We'll come back to that later, so make sure you keep in mind what your item is to tame your animal. We're going to go back to our tab for our animal now that we kept open from earlier. And in this section right here, you're going to press this plus icon, find your item, which for me is the Scrummy Bone, and press use selected item. And this will be able to tame our entity. The rest of this is all up to you. Entity base, you do not really want to use this most of the time, but this would just give you properties of like whatever entity you pick. So if it's a creeper, it will give you creeper properties. If it's a wolf, it will give you wolf properties. It can introduce problems, as it said, so avoid using it for most things. And this is for ranged attacks. You can make a procedure for ranged attacks. Ochi doesn't do ranged attacks, so I'm not going to worry about that. And then after we set our taming item, our AI task list, I'm going to save the mod element. And now we are officially done with our creature, so we're going to save that. Now, we're going to make our spawn egg. So again, we're going to press plus and we're going to go down to item, which I can't, every time I lose track of it, item. And I'm going to call this Ochi spawn egg. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm just trying to keep mine sort of organized. So create new item. And again, we're going to find our texture. Here's mine. And built-in normal, no special attributes, no enable glowing. Properties, I'm going to put it in my exploration and decoration tab. Max stack size 64. The rest of this is going to stay the same as it was for the Scrummy Bone. And I'm going to make this item not immune to fire. Recipe, remainder, all this other stuff is fine. Food properties, none. Advanced, none. Triggers, we will be coming back to this. Again, I'm sorry I keep saying that, but we need to set up the procedures before we can do anything about this. So we're going to save our mod element. And now we have our 3 elements that we're going to need, which is the Scrummy Bone to tame Ochi, the egg to spawn Ochi in the first place. And one more thing before we go into procedures is that if you want your entity to spawn in the wild, you'll go into this spawning tab after the AI and goals tab, and you'll enable entity spawning, despawn when idle, and you can change the spawn weight. So essentially, the higher the weight means the more the mob spawns in game. I'm gonna put this at like probably like 6. You can change the type of mob it is. Mine's a creature. You can do minimal number of entities in a group. I would do 1 and 2 as the maximum. You can change which biomes it can spawn in, and if it spawns in dungeons. I actually don't want Ochi to spawn in the wild because for my creature, for Ochi, I'm going to have it be a loot thing, so it's going to be a very rare chance to find his spawn egg in a treasure chest. And from there, you can get him and use him. So mine's going to be very rare thing that you can find in a chest. But for normal mobs, if you don't want them to be like a chest only or like a loot table only thing, you would just enable entity spawning and pick the biomes you want them to spawn in. So I'm going to press save mod element, and now we're completely done with these 3 for now. The next thing we need to do is make our keybinds and our procedures. So this is the more sort of in-depth part, but I actually saved all of my procedures for this so I can walk you through it pretty easily. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is make our spawn egg work and actually spawn Ochi. So we're going to go into our spawn egg and over to triggers at the bottom. And over here it says when right clicked on block position, we want to go into that one. So you're going to press plus and it's going to ask you to name your procedure. This is called Ochi spawn egg right clicked on block. That's perfect. I'm going to create the procedure. And from here we're going to build our procedure, but I actually have mine, so I'm going to import it. And I'm just going to go ahead and import this. So it says custom spawn egg right click. That's the one I'm going to import. So here it is. It's very simple. This is a very, very, very simple procedure. It shouldn't give you any trouble. If you seem to have any issues in multiplayer and stuff, I apologize. I am an amateur at this. It's just that I wanted to make this tutorial to help, because I couldn't find a lot of information on this online. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to living entity and replace this, so double click it, with your entity. So you're going to double click it. For me it's going to be Ochi, so I'm going to use selected item custom Ochi. It's going to ask you to remove one of something from your main inventory. This is where we're going to put our spawn egg. So spawn egg here. So when we right click on the ground with our spawn egg, it's going to remove the spawn egg from our inventory, one of that spawn egg, and in turn it's going to spawn Ochi. You want to make sure that yours is Y+1, because if not, you will spawn your entity in the ground, and you don't want to do that. I'm going to leave all of my procedure files in the description below, so that you can easily access my procedure files so that you can use them for your own stuff. That way it makes it a little bit easier for you all. I'm gonna go ahead and save this and make sure that under the egg, when right clicked, is the Ochi spawn egg right click on block, but for yours it'll be whatever creature spawn egg right click on block. So just do that and save mod element. Okay, so now we have this here. This is one of our procedures. And the next procedure that we're going to do is our procedure for actually being able to jump while we're riding on Ochi's back. So I'm going to go to plus, and the first thing is that I'm going to make a procedure. We're going to call this procedure jump on, well, let's see, Ochi jump while ridden. Create new procedure. That's just what I want to call mine, but you can call yours whatever. Again, I have my procedure already, so I'm going to import it. It's the jump on key press. So here it is. Here's the procedure. It's pretty long, but again, I'll leave these in the description, but you can see that we have the if do is get entity event target entity is riding custom type, and we want to replace the custom type with Ochi or whatever your creature is, so I'm going to replace it with that. Then if get entity is riding, data logic MPT tag in air, and I'll show you more about this later. Attempt override motion vector, we want to put all of this as x velocity is riding, get entity is riding. The y coordinate will be 1 because that makes it jump. I think 1 makes it jump about 3 to 4 in-game blocks, which is perfect for Ochi because Ochi has a pretty high jump. And then the rest is, as you see on the screen here, and again, I'll leave this in the description so you can use it in your own projects. Please do, I encourage you to, because I could not find a lot of information about this online. And then set event target entity data logic MBT tag in air to true. So this is what we want. This is good. We want to save this, so save the mod element. So now we have an Ochi jump procedure, and again, I'll show you what to do with these after we make them. We need to make one more though. Last one that we need to make is another procedure, and this one is going to be called in air tag. Create new procedure. And again, I'm going to import mine in air tag, and you need to make the in air tag specifically need to change the when global trigger to in here somewhere there is on loaded entity tick update, so click that. That's what you need to do for this one, and then connect them together so now they make a full thing. Don't worry about the warnings and errors, it's okay. It'll be okay. And this is what it should look like. On the side here is the in-air tag. So if is event entity target subtype of custom Ochi, then if it's on the ground, it'll do the in-air tag to true, else it'll do the in-air tag to false. So this just makes it so that you can only jump when you're on the ground, so that you can't just infinitely jump. Save this mod element after you've made it match this one. Again, it'll be in the description. Save the mod element. We have all 3 of our mod elements. The last thing before we finish setting it up is we need to do a key bind. So press the plus again, and you'll go over to where it says key binding. The name of key binding, I'm just going to call this Ochi jump. You can pick whatever key you want to trigger this. I'm going to use spacebar for mine. So spacebar, Ochi jump, and change the key categories. Instead of misc, put it into gameplay. And one key pressed, we want to put in our Ochi jump while ridden. This is mine, Ochi jump while ridden. We want to put that in there for the key binding procedures. You don't need to put anything on key release. Press save mod element, and now we have an Ochi jump that is spacebar. So the Ochi jump while ridden is in here. When we press space, he will jump. At least that's what we hope will happen. And then we have the in-air tag, which basically tells Ochi to jump or not to jump. Okay, so now we have only a few left things to do. So go back to your spawn egg, double click it, go to triggers, and make sure that your when right clicked on block pause is actually set up, and if it is, you're good. Press save mod element. You don't need to do anything with your scrummy bone because it's already set up, so you don't need to do anything. When you right click Ochi with it, Ochi will automatically accept the bone. Over here, you don't really need to do anything for this either. So we'll press save, and we're going to do our first test in Minecraft to see how this all works. Okay, so here we are in our first test world, and you can see that it's empty right now because I was using this to test some test entities earlier, but they are gone. So I'm just gonna get rid of this, and we're going to go to my creative tab, and in here you can see that the Ochi spawn egg is actually not showing its texture. I'm not really sure why that is. I'll have to fix that, but you can see that it does work. It does spawn Ochi, and he makes noises, which is amazing. So let's try right clicking on him. You can see that we can mount our creature, and now we're able to go like this. If we press space, he jumps, which is great. This is also why he doesn't have any fall damage, so that we don't die when we hit the ground. But if this wasn't a super flat, we could traverse up mountains and stuff. In fact, I will build like something for us to just jump on. You can see that we can jump on it. You can change this so that he doesn't jump as high. I might change it to maybe a little bit less than 1, so it's not as high, but you can see that it does work. And if we look at Ochi on the ground, you'll be able to see that he does wander around on his own, and if we hit him, he will panic and run. Now the next thing is the scrummy bone, which does work, and we will see if we can tame him. So I right clicked, but he doesn't like it, so I'm going to right click again. He still doesn't like it. Right click again, he's still upset. Here we go, now we tamed him. I don't know how to make it so that you can't ride them until they're tamed. That's something I haven't figured out yet, so I apologize I can't include that in this tutorial. But now Ochi should follow us around. Yeah, he's just sort of being weird, but he should follow us around and it should work out. Hi, sorry for the loud water noise. This is like in the future, but it's an addendum I forgot to record for this tutorial, so let's get to it. This is the section where I teach you how to have your entity be able to follow you or stay at home using an item. So we have our Ochi, we have our items and procedures. I'm going to show you the item first. I already made it. This is already finished, but this is the item that I made. I'm just going to double click it and open it so you can see. Obviously, as usual, we're going to make our item texture first, so you can create texture from scratch and make it whatever you want. I don't need to go over that again. The rest of this, you can do, just leave it like this. Obviously, for special information, you write whatever you need to write. I wrote Ochi listens to this because this is Ochi's follow item. Properties, you can see everything here. You can see what is here. I would put max stack size to 1 and item destroy speed to 1. Max stack size would just mean you can only carry one of these. You only need one of them to have Ochi follow you, so I would keep the max stack size to 1. I put the creative inventory tab to the creative inventory that I made custom for my mod. And the rarity is common because it doesn't really matter. You name it up here to whatever you want. The rest of this can stay as is. Food properties, it doesn't need any. Advanced properties, it doesn't need any. Triggers, it doesn't need any. So this is all you need to do. Once you're done, you save mod element, and then whatever your object is, just keep in mind what it is. So we'll go over to the Ochi folder and in Ochi procedures, and I'm going to show you the Ochi follow condition. Okay, so this is really simple. The Ochi follow condition is event triggered by external call. This is always the start of any condition. Make sure it says or when global trigger entity is tamed. So make sure that that's what it's set to. Entity is tamed. So make sure it's that. And then if do, so if you use the item block, again, I'm going to leave these in the description so you can just grab them. It's easier than me trying to find all this in here, but you can try to look for these yourself. Make sure it's the red version of the item box, and then inside, because it looks like this on its own. Looks like that, and then you put this one in here. So inside, it's item and offhand of. Then you get owner of entity target entity if tamed. So null get owner of entity / target entity if tamed equals, and then item and offhand of the person who has tamed it is the whistle. So I used offhand because offhand means that we could carry the whistle and have Ochi follow us while we're also carrying our sword in our main hand, so that way we can have our battle pet follow us while we also are able to fight with our main hand and have our whistle in our offhand. And then do return true if holding, and do return false if not holding. And I'll show you what this actually looks like in game, but that's what you need for the follow condition. And then over in Ochi, which is here, we go into AI and goals. Here in follow owner with speed factor of 1, minimal distance 10, maximal distance 2 if tamed, XO. This is where we would double click, so you double click on the conditions right here, you double click this, and it opens this little window. Additional start condition is what you need to put it into, so you put your condition that I just showed you in here. So for me it's the Ochi follow condition, and you press OK. That's all you need to do, and then you save your entity. So the procedure, this procedure that I showed you just a little bit ago, this one that we just talked about and created, would be the one that you use in Ochi's AI and goals conditions. We spawn our Ochi. He's currently doesn't belong to us, so he's not going to listen to us or follow us, but with Scrummy Bone, we should be able to tame Ochi. Now we can tame him, we can ride him around. I've shown this off, I'm pretty sure, before. He can also jump. And when you are in this mode, you can see that you sit on him and it looks perfectly good. Now, if we dismount from Ochi, I will hold the whistle, and you can see that Ochi has no interest in following us, which means that you can leave your Ochi at home and he will not despawn. He'll be there when you come back. But this way you can have your Ochi only follow you if you want him to. Now, if I swap the item over to my offhand, Ochi will follow. So you can see Ochi just teleported to me. Ochi is now following. So this means that while Ochi is following, you can also have out a sword for combat in your main hand So you can fight while Ochi is following you. That's why I decided to put the item in the offhand. Now Ochi does teleport to you if he doesn't keep up very well. But obviously you can change the follow distance for your own creatures. But this is really nice to have. It's sort of just like a wolf, how they'll just teleport to you if they can't keep up with you. But this way you can still fight and have Ochi follow you. Now, if I put this whistle, you can see Ochi's following me. I'll show you. So he'll come over this cliff. Now, if I put this whistle back in my main hand, Ochi will no longer follow. So you have to hold it in your offhand for Ochi to follow you. And also, if you just don't have it out at all, of course he won't follow you. But if you put the whistle in your offhand, Ochi will follow, which is very good. This way you can have your defense and also have your pet with you as well. This was the best way I could find to do this in Mcreator, because in Mcreator, as far as I can tell, you can't really make a creature follow you without some sort of item, at least unless you're going to script, which was the whole point of this, was to stay away from scripting. Show off this addendum to the mod to show you that you can do this in Mcreator. If I hit this, Ochi will help to attack it. Let's actually go over here and hit this one and see. So Ochi should help to attack the slime. It is low priority right now, but you can see that he is helping to attack it. Let's go back into Ochi for a second in AI and goals. We need to actually change around some of these. So wander around should be less important than the others. So we want follow owner and hurt enemies and do melee attacks to be first. So let's do follow owner with speed factor of 1, all this stuff. Do melee attack, and then hurt enemies that attack should probably be second actually, and then melee attack. Wander around, panic when attacked, look around, and float in water should be the last ones on the list. And after that setup, you can save mod element. I'm gonna actually look into why the egg isn't showing up before I kind of end things off. Alright, so we're back in Minecraft, and actually it's working now. I didn't really change anything, I just kind of resaved it and then refreshed my Mcreator, and it seems to be working now, so sometimes that can just be the problem. But there you go, you can see that Ochi is here. Now, earlier I told you we would be finding out how to make the bounding box accurate, and this is going to take some trial and error because, again, I'm just not very good with bounding boxes. So, we're going to need to figure out Ochi's bounding box. Now, you can press F3 and B at the same time to bring up information, and if you press F5 and B, you can see that you go into this mode. So if you press F3 and B at the same time, you can see that a bounding box appears. Now Ochi's bounding box, it doesn't really look right. As you can see, it's too tall, it's too thin, and it just that's just not going to work. And when we control shift on him, you can see that we are sitting pretty high up. So that's not really what we want for our bounding box for Ochi. So in order to fix this, you're just gonna have to play around with how the bounding box works, or how big it is and stuff. It's gonna take some trial and error, so I'm just gonna show you how to do it. So we're taking a look at this. We can tell it's too tall, we can tell it's too thin. So let's exit out of our Minecraft testing and go back into our block bench. We're gonna go to Ochi, and in here, it is ordered by width and depth, height, shadow size, and mounted entity Y offset. So the first things that we're going to deal with is the actual, like, this stuff. The shadow size needs to be a little bit bigger because Ochi's pretty big, and the height needs to be less. So let's try to go down to 1.4, and we'll try to put the width up to like 2 for now. Press save and keep open, and wait for the Gradle project to let you open Minecraft. Now we're going to press Control or F3B again, and you can see that this is a bit more accurate to Ochi's size. In fact, I'd say that's pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with this, I think. I don't think it's too bad. So you can see that if I click up here, it won't mount Ochi, but if I click here, it will. And it gives us plenty of space to click Ochi and mount on top of Ochi. But you can see that we still have the problem. Oh, actually, it kind of fixed it. You could see that the problem of us sitting too low on Ochi is kind of fixed without me needing to do anything. If you feel like you're sitting too far into the entity though, you can always change the Y offset, but I think this is actually pretty good and pretty accurate to Ochi. You're sitting right on the back and it doesn't look like it's too far in or anything like that, so I think that this is actually perfect. So I'm going to go with this and keep it like this. And you can see that we can jump, like I showed you earlier. Here it is, here's the jump. It is a bit high, so I am going to tame it down just a little bit, but that seems pretty good. So it might take you a little longer to find the right bounding box for your entity, but just know that it's an order of width and depth, shadow or height, shadow size, and mounted entity offset, and you can always play around with these as much as you need to. I want to show you one last thing, and that is that you can do add recipe to make your like whatever your taming thing is going to be, and your spawn egg. I just want to show you this. I'm not going to complete it, but I'm just going to make it test recipe and show you that you can do this. So if you put, like, for example, you want your spawn egg to be made out of something, you can assemble them however you want your crafting table, and then that will make one or however many of your spawn egg, and then you can save that. And if we go into Minecraft, if I want to be able to make my scrummy bone to tame Ochi, it's currently set to silly fruit, and I don't know why this isn't working again. I'm confused. I'm not sure why this keeps not working. Regardless, silly fruit and crafting table. And if we put the silly fruit in the crafting table, then you can see that it does make, even though it's not showing, it does make the spawn egg. And again, I'm not sure why it's not showing. I don't know. But regardless, there is that. Yeah, hopefully this tutorial was helpful to you. I hope so anyways. It was a bit out of order and I do apologize for that, but I recorded a lot of different sections as I learned because, well, like I said, there's not really a lot of information on Mcreator projects in general, and the information that is there is kind of all over the place. So I at least hope this was helpful in some way, and thank you so much for watching Spazzy's Classroom, and I will see you whenever I make another video. For now, enjoy making Mcreator entities, and please feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. I can't guarantee I'll know all the answers, but I'll try my best. Stay groovy. Bye-bye.